He thought the hardest part was over. Watching Celia pack her bags, her hands shaking as she folded clothes around her growing belly. Donovan had rehearsed the words 100 times, but when they finally came out, they sounded colder than he intended. "This isn't working anymore. I need you to leave." She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just looked at him with those tired eyes, nodded once, and walked out of the house they'd built together. That was 6 months ago. 6 months since he'd chosen the thrill of something new over the weight of something real. 6 months since Rhiannon, his secretary with her bright smile and easy laughter, had made him feel alive again. But today, standing in the conference room of Henderson and Cole Industries, waiting to meet the new executive director who would decide his future, Donovan felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Fear. And he had no idea why. Donovan Reed was the kind of man people noticed. At 38, he had the corner office on the 14th floor, a salary that made his college friends jealous, and a confidence that came from never really failing at anything. He was handsome in that clean-cut way, sharp jawline, perfectly styled brown hair, suits that fit like they were painted on. People at Henderson and Cole Industries respected him. Some even feared him a little. But respect at work didn't fill the empty spaces at home. Celia had been his wife for 7 years. They met in college, back when Donovan was still figuring out who he wanted to be. She was studying art history, and he was in business school. She was quiet where he was loud, thoughtful where he was impulsive. Everyone said they balanced each other out. And for a while, they did. But somewhere along the way, things changed. Celia became obsessed with having a baby. Every month was a cycle of hope and heartbreak. Donovan tried to care, he really did. But after 3 years of doctor visits, treatments, and Celia crying in the bathroom, he started to feel trapped. He worked longer hours. He stayed late at the office. And that's when he noticed Rhiannon. Rhiannon was 26, fresh out of grad school, and full of energy. She laughed at his jokes. She admired his work. She made him feel like the man he used to be, the man he wanted to be. It started innocently enough. Coffee breaks. Late-night project meetings. Then one night, after a company event, they kissed in the parking lot. And Donovan didn't stop it. For months, he lived 2 lives. Husband at home. Lover at work. Celia suspected something, he could tell. She asked questions. Where were you? Who were you with? Why do you smell like perfume? He lied. Every single time. Then Celia got pregnant. She told him on a Tuesday night. She was glowing, holding the little plastic test in her hand like it was made of gold. "Donovan, we did it. We're going to have a baby." He should have been happy. He should have hugged her, cried with her, celebrated. But all he felt was panic. Because 2 days earlier, Rhiannon had told him she loved him. And he'd said it back. Donovan didn't know what to do. So he did the worst thing possible. He did nothing. He let Celia plan the nursery. He let her buy tiny clothes and read parenting books. And the whole time, he kept seeing Rhiannon. One night, Celia found a receipt. Dinner for 2 at a restaurant Donovan had told her he'd never been to. She didn't yell. She just held it up and asked, "Who is she?" Donovan could have lied again. But he was tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of feeling guilty. So he told her the truth. "Her name is Rhiannon. She works with me. And I love her." Celia's face didn't change. She just stared at him, one hand on her belly, the other holding that stupid receipt. Then she whispered, "What about the baby?" Donovan looked away. "I don't know if I'm ready to be a father." That's when Celia's face finally broke. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't make a sound. She folded the receipt in half, set it on the table, and walked to the bedroom. Donovan stood there, frozen, listening to the sound of drawers opening and closing. The next morning, he told her to leave. "This house is in my name," he said, his voice flat. "You need to go." Celia packed one suitcase. She didn't ask where she was supposed to go. She didn't ask for money or help. She just left. And Donovan told himself he'd done the right thing. He'd set them both free. 2 days later, Rhiannon moved in. For a while, it was perfect. Rhiannon cooked breakfast in her underwear. She surprised him with weekend trips. She made him feel young and wanted and alive. Donovan forgot about Celia. He forgot about the baby. He told himself this was the life he deserved. But late at night, when Rhiannon was asleep beside him, Donovan would lie awake and think about Celia's face the day she left. And he'd feel something cold settle in his chest. Something that felt a lot like regret. Rhiannon was everything Celia wasn't. Where Celia had been soft-spoken and careful, Rhiannon was bold and spontaneous. She wore red lipstick and high heels to the grocery store. She danced in the kitchen. She made Donovan laugh in a way he hadn't laughed in years. At work, their relationship was the worst-kept secret in the office. People whispered when they walked by. Some gave Donovan looks of admiration. Others, especially the women, looked at him like he was dirt. But Donovan didn't care. He had what he wanted. Rhiannon quit her job as his secretary after she moved in. "It's unprofessional," she said with a grin. "Plus, I want to focus on us." Donovan thought it was sweet. He paid for everything: rent, food, her car payment. Rhiannon didn't seem to mind. She'd kiss him on the cheek and say, "You're so good to me." But as the weeks went by, Donovan started noticing little things. Rhiannon spent money like it was water. New clothes every week. Spa days. Expensive dinners. When Donovan asked her to slow down, she pouted. "Don't you want me to be happy?" And Donovan, who hated conflict, would just hand over his credit card. Work became his escape. He threw himself into a major project, a merger with a European firm that could make or break his career. His boss, a serious man named Mr. Calloway, told him this was his chance to prove himself. "Nail this, Reed, and you're looking at a promotion. Maybe even a VP position." Donovan worked 18-hour days. He barely saw Rhiannon, which, if he was honest, was a relief. At home, she'd started picking fights. "Why are you always working? Don't you love me anymore? You're just like every other man, selfish." Donovan didn't understand. He was giving her everything. What more did she want? Then one afternoon, his phone buzzed. It was a message from a number he didn't recognize. Celia had the baby. A girl. "Thought you should know." Donovan stared at the screen. His hands went numb. A girl. He had a daughter. Somewhere out there, Celia was holding a tiny baby that was half him. And he didn't even know her name. He thought about calling. He thought about asking for a picture. But then Rhiannon walked into his office, wrapped her arms around his neck, and whispered, "Take me to lunch." And Donovan put his phone away. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept imagining Celia in a hospital bed, alone, holding a baby with his eyes. Did she hate him? Did she tell the baby about him? Would his daughter grow up thinking her father didn't want her? Rhiannon rolled over and mumbled, "What's wrong?" "Nothing," Donovan lied. "Go back to sleep." But something was wrong. Donovan could feel it. The life he'd chosen, the life that was supposed to make him happy, felt hollow. Every smile Rhiannon gave him felt rehearsed. Every laugh felt borrowed. He missed the quiet. He missed the way Celia used to read beside him in bed, not saying anything, just being there. He missed her. But it was too late now. He'd made his choice. And Donovan Reed was not the kind of man who admitted he was wrong. At work, the merger was falling apart. The European firm was getting cold feet, and Mr. Calloway was breathing down Donovan's neck. "Fix this, Reed. I don't care how." Donovan tried. He really did. But his mind kept drifting. To Celia. To the baby. To the life he'd thrown away. Then one morning, Mr. Calloway called an emergency meeting. "Listen up," he said, his face grim. "The board has decided to bring in outside help. A new executive director. She's got experience with international deals, and she's going to oversee this merger personally." Donovan's stomach dropped. A new boss. Someone who would watch his every move. Someone who could destroy his career if he screwed up. "Who is she?" someone asked. Mr. Calloway smiled for the first time in weeks. "Her name is Celia Frost, and she starts Monday." Donovan's blood turned to ice. Celia Frost. His Celia. No, it couldn't be. Celia didn't work in business. She was an art history major. She didn't know anything about mergers or corporations But then Donovan remembered something. Celia's late father. He'd been some kind of investor, hadn't he? Wealthy. Connected. Celia never talked about him much. She said they weren't close. Donovan's heart pounded. He pulled out his phone and searched her name. And there it was. Celia Frost, newly appointed executive director at Henderson and Cole Industries. MBA from Stanford. Former consultant at a top firm in London. Daughter of the late billionaire investor Edward Frost. Donovan felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. Celia wasn't just surviving. She was thriving. And in 3 days, she was going to be his boss. Monday morning came too fast. Donovan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for the 5th time. His hands were shaking. Rhiannon was still asleep, sprawled across the bed in one of his shirts. He thought about waking her, telling her what was happening. But what would he even say? "The woman I divorced is now my boss. Oh, and she just had my baby." No, he couldn't do that. So he left without a word. The office was buzzing when he arrived. Everyone was talking about the new executive director. Apparently, she'd already been in since 7 a.m., meeting with department heads and reviewing files. People said she was brilliant. Tough. No nonsense. Donovan felt sick. At 9, Mr. Calloway sent out a message. "All senior staff to the main conference room. Now." Donovan walked in and took a seat near the back. The room was packed. People were whispering, speculating. Then the door opened. And Celia walked in. Donovan forgot how to breathe. She looked different. Her hair was shorter, styled in a sleek cut that framed her face. She wore a black suit that fit her perfectly, and her expression was calm, controlled. She didn't look like the woman who had cried in his bedroom 6 months ago. She looked powerful. Her eyes swept the room. And then they landed on him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Donovan felt like a deer in headlights. Celia's face didn't change. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just looked at him, and then she looked away. Like he was nobody. Mr. Calloway stood up. "Everyone, this is Celia Frost, our new executive director. She'll be overseeing the European merger and restructuring some of our internal operations. Celia, the floor is yours." Celia stepped forward. Her voice was clear, confident. "Thank you, Mr. Calloway. I've spent the last few days reviewing our current position, and I'll be honest, we have a lot of work to do. This merger is on the verge of collapse, and that's unacceptable. Over the next few weeks, I'll be meeting with each of you individually to assess your contributions and determine where we need to make changes." Her eyes flicked to Donovan again. Just for a second. "I believe in accountability," she continued. "If you've been doing your job, you have nothing to worry about. If you haven't..." She paused. "Well, we'll address that." The room was silent. Celia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Let's get to work." The meeting ended, and people filed out, buzzing with nervous energy. Donovan stayed in his seat, frozen. He didn't know what to do. Should he talk to her? Apologize? Pretend like nothing happened? Before he could decide, Celia's assistant appeared at the door. A young man, crisp and efficient. "Mr. Reed, Ms. Frost would like to see you in her office. Now." Donovan's stomach twisted. He followed the assistant down the hall to the executive suite. Celia's new office was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the city, furniture that probably cost more than Donovan's car. She was standing by the window when he walked in, her back to him. "Close the door," she said. Donovan obeyed. Celia turned around. Up close, he could see the small changes. The faint circles under her eyes. The way her jaw was set, like she was holding something back. But she didn't look weak. She looked like steel. "Sit," she said. Donovan sat. Celia walked to her desk and opened a folder. "I've been reviewing your work on the merger. It's sloppy. Incomplete. Frankly, I'm surprised you still have a job." Donovan opened his mouth to defend himself, but Celia held up a hand. "I don't want excuses," she said. "I want results. You have 2 weeks to fix this. If you can't, I'll find someone who can." "Celia." "It's Ms. Frost," she said sharply. "We're not friends, Donovan. We're not anything. I'm your boss. You work for me. And if you can't handle that, there's the door." Donovan felt heat rise to his face. Anger. Shame. He didn't know which. "Is that all?" he asked, his voice tight. Celia leaned back in her chair. "One more thing. I heard you've been living with someone. Rhiannon, is it?" Donovan froze. Celia's smile was cold. "Congratulations. I hope she makes you happy." She turned back to her computer, dismissing him. Donovan stood, his legs shaking. He wanted to say something. Anything. But the words wouldn't come. So he left. And as the door closed behind him, one thought echoed in his mind. What have I done? Have you ever made a choice you thought was right, only to realize later that you destroyed the best thing you ever had? What did you do about it? Donovan couldn't focus. For 2 days, he sat at his desk, staring at spreadsheets that blurred together. Every time he tried to work on the merger, his mind went back to Celia's office. The way she looked at him. The way she said his name like it tasted bitter. She hated him. And he deserved it. At home, things weren't any better. Rhiannon had started asking questions. "Why are you so quiet? What's going on at work? Are you tired of me already?" Donovan wanted to scream. He wanted to tell her that his ex-wife, the woman he'd thrown away, was now the most powerful person in his professional life. That every time he closed his eyes, he saw Celia holding a baby he'd never met. That he felt like his entire world was caving in. But instead he said, "I'm just stressed. The new boss is tough." Rhiannon pouted. "Well, don't take it out on me." She went shopping. Again. Donovan didn't even ask how much she spent. He just poured himself a drink and sat in the dark. The next morning, Celia's assistant called him into another meeting. This time, it wasn't just the two of them. Jasper Cole, one of the senior partners, was there too. Jasper was in his 50s, sharp as a knife, and he didn't suffer fools. "Read," Jasper said, not bothering with pleasantries. "Ms. Frost tells me you're behind on the merger. Way behind." Donovan glanced at Celia. She sat across the table, her face unreadable. "I've been working on it," Donovan said. "There have been some complications with the European team." "Complications you should have anticipated," Celia interrupted. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "You've been on this project for 4 months, Donovan. 4 months, and we're no closer to closing than we were on day 1. Jasper frowned. "That's not acceptable." I know, Celia said. Which is why I'm recommending we bring in Octavia Larson to co-lead. Donovan's heart sank. Octavia Larson was a shark. Brilliant, ruthless, and ambitious. If she came onto the project, Donovan would be sidelined. Humiliated. Ms. Frost, Donovan said, trying to keep his voice steady. I can handle this. I just need a little more time. Celia looked at him. Really looked at him. And for a moment, Donovan thought he saw something flicker in her eyes. Something that wasn't hate. But then it was gone. You have 1 week, she said. Prove me wrong. Jasper nodded. 1 week, read. Don't waste it. The meeting ended. Jasper left. Donovan stood to follow, but Celia's voice stopped him. Donovan. He turned. She was standing now, her arms crossed. Why are you still here? He blinked. What? In this job. In this city. Why didn't you leave after? She trailed off, her jaw tightening. After everything. Donovan didn't know how to answer that. Because I'm a coward? Because I didn't think you'd ever come back? Because I thought I could forget you? I don't know, he said quietly. Celia shook her head. You never do. She turned back to her desk, and Donovan left. That night, he went to a bar. He didn't tell Rhiannon. He just needed to be alone. He ordered whiskey and sat in the corner, replaying every moment of the last 6 months. He thought about the night he told Celia to leave. The way she'd looked at him, heartbroken and betrayed. He thought about the text message. Celia had the baby. A girl. He pulled out his phone and stared at the message. He still didn't know who sent it. A friend of Celia's? Her mother? Did it matter? He opened a browser and typed Celia's name again. This time, he found a recent interview. She was sitting in a sleek office, wearing that same black suit, her expression poised. The interviewer asked, You've achieved so much in such a short time. What drives you? Celia smiled. My daughter. Everything I do for her. Donovan's chest tightened. The interviewer leaned forward. You're a single mother, correct? Celia nodded. Yes. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Donovan closed the video. He felt like he was drowning. When he got home, Rhiannon was waiting. She was wearing a tight dress, her makeup perfect. Where were you? Out, Donovan said. Out where? Does it matter? Rhiannon's eyes narrowed. Are you cheating on me? Donovan almost laughed. The irony was too much. No, Rhiannon. I'm not cheating on you. Then what's going on? You've been acting weird ever since that new boss showed up. She paused, her eyes widening. Wait. Is it her? Do you know her? Donovan didn't answer. Rhiannon's face went pale. Oh my God. It's Celia, isn't it? Your ex-wife. Donovan looked away. Rhiannon's voice rose. She's your boss? Are you kidding me? I didn't know she was coming, Donovan said. I had no idea. Well, this is just perfect. Rhiannon crossed her arms. So what, you're just going to let her push you around? She's not pushing me around. She's doing her job. Her job. Rhiannon laughed bitterly. Come on, Donovan. She's punishing you. Can't you see that? Maybe she was. Maybe Celia was punishing him. But could he really blame her? I don't want to talk about this, Donovan said. Of course you don't. Rhiannon grabbed her purse. I'm going out. Where? Somewhere you're not. The door slammed. Donovan stood alone in the empty apartment, and for the first time in months, he let himself admit the truth. He'd ruined everything. And he didn't know how to fix it. The week passed in a blur of sleepless nights and failed negotiations. Donovan worked around the clock, trying to salvage the merger. He sent emails at 3 in the morning. He made calls to Europe during their business hours, which meant staying up until dawn. He was exhausted, running on coffee and desperation. But it wasn't enough. The European firm sent a formal letter. They were pulling out. The deal was dead. When Donovan read the email, he felt his entire world collapse. 4 months of work. Gone. His promotion. Gone. His career, his reputation, everything he'd built, gone. He sat in his office, staring at the screen, and wondered if this was rock bottom. Then Celia's assistant appeared at his door. "Ms. Frost wants to see you." Of course she did. Donovan walked to her office like a man walking to his execution. When he stepped inside, Celia was standing by the window again, looking out at the city. "Close the door," she said. He did. She turned to face him. "I heard about the Europeans." Donovan nodded. He didn't trust himself to speak. "I'm disappointed," Celia said, but not surprised. That stung more than Donovan expected. "I gave you a chance," she continued. "I wanted to believe you could pull this off. But you didn't. And now I have to clean up your mess." "I'm sorry," Donovan said. His voice cracked. "I tried. I really tried." Celia studied him. "Did you?" "Yes. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been too distracted to do your job. Too busy worrying about your secretary-turned-girlfriend. Too busy feeling sorry for yourself." Donovan's hands clenched into fists. "That's not fair." "Fair." Celia's laugh was sharp. "You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you kicked me out of our home while I was pregnant? Was it fair when you chose her over your own child?" "I didn't." "Yes, you did." Celia's voice rose, and for the first time, Donovan saw cracks in her armor. "You made a choice, Donovan. You chose your mistress. You chose your ego. And you left me with nothing." "That's not true," Donovan said. "You clearly had plenty. Look at you now. You're rich. Powerful. You don't need me." Celia stared at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "You're right. I don't need you. I never did. But our daughter? She needed a father. And you weren't there." The words hit Donovan like a punch to the gut. "What's her name?" he whispered. Celia's expression hardened. "You don't get to know that." "She's my daughter." "No," Celia said coldly. "She's my daughter. You gave up that right the day you told me to leave." Donovan felt tears burning behind his eyes. "Celia, please." "Get out," she said. "Celia." "Get out." Donovan left. He walked out of her office, past the stares of his co-workers, and into the elevator. When the doors closed, he leaned against the wall and let himself cry. He'd lost everything. And it was all his fault. When he got home, Rhiannon was packing. "What are you doing?" Donovan asked. She didn't look at him. "I'm leaving." "What? Why?" Rhiannon zipped up her suitcase and turned to face him. "Because I'm not stupid, Donovan. You're still in love with her." "That's not." "Don't lie to me," Rhiannon snapped. "I see the way you look when you talk about her. I see the way you've been falling apart ever since she showed up. You don't love me. You never did. I was just a distraction." Donovan wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Because she was right. Rhiannon grabbed her bags and walked to the door. "Good luck with your life, Donovan. I hope it was worth it." And she was gone. Donovan stood in the empty apartment, surrounded by silence. He'd lost his job. He'd lost Rhiannon. He'd lost Celia. He'd lost everything. And he had no one to blame but himself. For the first time in his life, Donovan had nothing to do. No work. No girlfriend. No purpose. Celia hadn't fired him. Not yet. But she'd made it clear he was on thin ice. She reassigned him to a junior project, something an intern could have handled. It was humiliating. Every day, Donovan showed up to the office and watched as his former colleagues avoided eye contact. They knew. Everyone knew. He was a failure. At night, he sat alone in his apartment and drank. He thought about calling Celia, apologizing, begging for another chance. But what would he even say? Sorry I ruined your life? Sorry I abandoned our child? Words felt meaningless. One evening, his phone rang. It was his mother. "Donovan, honey," she said, her voice warm. "I haven't heard from you in weeks. Are you okay?" Donovan almost laughed. Was he okay? No. He was the furthest thing from okay. "I'm fine, Mom," he lied. "You don't sound fine." There was a pause. "Is this about Celia?" Donovan froze. "How do you know about Celia?" "She called me," his mother said gently. "A few months ago. She told me about the baby. A little girl. Donovan, why didn't you tell me I have a granddaughter?" Donovan's throat tightened. "I didn't know how." "You didn't know how to tell your own mother that you have a child?" His mother's voice was filled with disappointment. "What happened to you, Donovan? You used to be such a good boy. Kind. Thoughtful. When did you become so selfish?" The words cut deep. Because they were true. "I don't know," Donovan whispered. His mother sighed. "Celia is a good woman. She didn't deserve what you did to her. And that baby, your daughter, she deserves a father. Celia won't let me see her." "Can you blame her?" No. He couldn't. "If you want to fix this," his mother said, "you need to do more than just say sorry. You need to prove you've changed. You need to show Celia that you're the man she thought you were when she married you." "I don't know if I can," Donovan admitted. "Then you've already lost." His mother hung up. Donovan sat in the dark, her words echoing in his mind. "You need to prove you've changed. But how?" The next day, Donovan did something he hadn't done in years. He went to therapy. The therapist, a woman named Dr. Patel, listened as Donovan poured out everything. The affair. The betrayal. The guilt. The regret. When he finished, Dr. Patel leaned back in her chair. "Do you love Celia?" Donovan didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Did you ever stop?" He thought about that. Really thought about it. And he realized the answer was no. He'd never stopped loving Celia. He'd just been too proud, too stupid, to admit it. "No," he said. "I never stopped." "Then why did you leave her?" Donovan exhaled. "Because I was scared. Scared of being a father. Scared of responsibility. Scared that I wasn't enough." Dr. Patel nodded. "And Rhiannon?" "She made me feel like I was enough. Like I was special." Donovan shook his head. "But it was all fake. A fantasy. And I destroyed my real life for it." "So what are you going to do now?" Donovan looked up. "I don't know." "Well," Dr. Patel said, "I suggest you figure it out. Because right now, you're not living. You're just surviving." That night, Donovan made a decision. He was going to fight for Celia. For his daughter. For the life he should have had. He didn't know if Celia would forgive him. He didn't know if she'd even listen. But he had to try. Because for the first time in months, Donovan understood something. Love wasn't about the easy moments. It wasn't about the thrill or the excitement. Love was about showing up. Even when it was hard. Even when you were scared. And Donovan was ready to show up. Have you ever realized too late that you took someone for granted? Did you fight to get them back, or did you let them go? What would you do differently? Donovan started small. He began by learning everything he could about his daughter. He couldn't ask Celia directly. She'd made it clear she didn't want him involved. So he did what any desperate man would do. He asked his mother. Her name is Felix, his mother said over the phone. She's beautiful, Donovan. She has your eyes. Felix. His daughter's name was Felix. Donovan felt something break open inside him. A dam he didn't know he'd built. Tears streamed down his face as he pictured a little girl he'd never met. A little girl who had his eyes. "Does Celia ever talk about me?" he asked. His mother hesitated. "Not really. But I can tell she's still hurt. She's strong, Donovan. Stronger than I think even she realized. But she's carrying a lot of pain." "I want to see Felix," Donovan said. "I want to meet her." "Then you need to talk to Celia. And you need to be ready for her to say no." Donovan knew that. But he had to try. The next morning, he went to Celia's office. Her assistant tried to stop him. "Mr. Reed, you don't have an appointment." "I don't care," Donovan said, walking past him. He knocked once on Celia's door and opened it. Celia looked up from her desk, her expression shifting from surprise to anger. "What do you think you're doing?" "I need to talk to you," Donovan said. "We have nothing to talk about." "Please, Celia. Just 5 minutes." Celia stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed and closed her laptop. "You have 3. Donovan stepped inside and closed the door. His heart was pounding. "I know I don't deserve anything from you," he began. "I know I hurt you in ways I can't even understand. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. For everything." Celia's face didn't change. "Is that all?" "No." Donovan took a breath. "I want to meet Felix." Celia's eyes flashed. "Absolutely not. She's my daughter. You gave up that right." "I know," Donovan said. "And I hate myself for it. But I want to fix this. I want to be in her life. I want to be a father." Celia stood up, her hands flat on the desk. "You don't get to walk back into our lives just because you're lonely. Felix is happy. She's loved. She doesn't need a father who's going to disappoint her." "I won't." "You already did," Celia said, her voice breaking. "You disappointed me. You disappointed our marriage. What makes you think you won't disappoint her too?" Donovan felt like he'd been slapped. But he deserved it. "Because I've changed," he said quietly. Celia laughed bitterly. "Have you? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear?" "I mean it, Celia. I'm not the same man I was 6 months ago. I've been going to therapy. I've been trying to understand why I did what I did. And I know now that I was wrong. About everything." Celia crossed her arms. "Congratulations. You figured out you were a terrible person. Do you want a medal?" "I want a chance," Donovan said. "Just one chance to prove I can be the man you and Felix deserve." Celia shook her head. "You don't get it, do you? This isn't about what you want. It's about what's best for Felix. And I don't think you're what's best for her." Donovan felt his chest tighten. "Please, Celia. I'm begging you." "No," Celia said firmly. "Now get out of my office before I call security." Donovan wanted to argue. He wanted to fall to his knees and plead. But he could see in Celia's eyes that it wouldn't matter. So he left. But he wasn't giving up. Over the next few weeks, Donovan tried everything. He sent Celia letters. He left flowers at her office. He even tried showing up at her apartment, but the doorman wouldn't let him in. Nothing worked. Celia had built a wall around herself and Felix, and Donovan had no idea how to break through. Then one day, he got a call from Jasper Cole. "Reed, we need to talk." Donovan met him at a coffee shop downtown. Jasper looked serious. "I've been watching you," Jasper said. "And I'll be honest, I didn't think you had it in you to turn things around. But you've been doing good work these last few weeks." Donovan blinked. "I have." "Yeah. That junior project you're on? You've exceeded expectations. The client is happy. The team is happy. Even Celia is impressed." Donovan's heart skipped. "She is." Jasper nodded. "She doesn't say much, but I can tell. You're proving yourself, Reed. Keep it up, and you might just save your career." Donovan felt a flicker of hope. If Celia was impressed with his work, maybe, just maybe, she'd be willing to give him a chance in other areas of his life. But he couldn't push. He had to be patient. So he kept working. He kept showing up. And he kept hoping. Then one Friday evening, as Donovan was packing up to leave, Celia appeared at his desk. "Donovan." He looked up, surprised. "Celia. Hi." She crossed her arms. "I've been thinking about what you said. About wanting to meet Felix." Donovan's breath caught. "And?" Celia sighed. "I'm not making any promises. But I'm willing to let you see her. Once. For an hour. If you do anything to upset her, you're done. Understand?" Donovan nodded, his throat tight. "I understand. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. I'll text you the address." She turned and walked away before Donovan could say thank you. But he didn't need to. Because for the first time in months, Donovan felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Hope. Donovan barely slept that night. He kept imagining what Felix would look like. Would she have Celia's smile? His nose? Would she be shy or outgoing? Would she hate him? The next day, he arrived at the address Celia had sent. It was a park, green and sprawling, with a playground in the center. Families were scattered across the grass, kids laughing and running. Donovan spotted Celia sitting on a bench. And beside her, in a stroller, was a tiny girl with curly brown hair and bright, curious eyes. Felix. Donovan's legs felt weak. He walked over slowly, afraid that if he moved too fast, this moment would disappear. Celia looked up as he approached. "You're late." "I'm sorry," Donovan said. "I got stuck in traffic." Celia didn't respond. She stood and lifted Felix out of the stroller. The little girl looked at Donovan with wide eyes, clutching a stuffed bunny. "Felix," Celia said gently, "this is Donovan. He's..." She hesitated. "He's someone who wanted to meet you." Felix didn't say anything. She just stared. Donovan crouched down to her level. "Hi, Felix. It's nice to meet you." Felix buried her face in Celia's shoulder. Donovan's heart sank. But Celia whispered something in Felix's ear, and slowly, the little girl peeked out. "She's shy," Celia said. "That's okay," Donovan said softly. "I'm a little nervous too." Felix tilted her head, curious. Donovan smiled. "Do you like bunnies?" Felix nodded and held up her stuffed animal. "That's a nice bunny," Donovan said. "What's its name?" "Mopsy," Felix said quietly. Donovan's chest tightened. She spoke. His daughter spoke to him. "Mopsy is a great name," he said. For the next hour, Donovan sat with Celia and Felix. He didn't push. He didn't try to force anything. He just talked to Felix, asked her about her favorite things, and listened as she babbled about cartoons and snacks and her bunny. Celia watched silently, her expression unreadable. When the hour was up, Celia stood. "Okay, Felix. Time to go." Felix pouted. But I don't want to go. Celia's eyes widened slightly. She glanced at Donovan. Can we do this again? Donovan asked, his voice hopeful. Celia hesitated. Then she nodded. Maybe. It wasn't a yes. But it wasn't a no either. And for Donovan, that was enough. Over the next few months, Donovan saw Felix once a week. Sometimes at the park. Sometimes at a children's museum. Always with Celia present. Slowly, Felix started to warm up to him. She'd run to him when he arrived, show him her drawings, ask him to push her on the swings. And every time she smiled at him, Donovan felt like his heart might burst. Celia, on the other hand, remained distant. She was polite, civil, but nothing more. Donovan didn't push. He knew he'd broken her trust, and trust took time to rebuild. But he was willing to wait. One evening, after a visit to the zoo, Celia asked if they could talk. They sat on a bench while Felix played nearby. You've been good with her, Celia said quietly. I'm trying, Donovan said. Celia looked at him. Why now? Why do you suddenly care? Donovan didn't have a simple answer. I don't know if it was sudden. I think I always cared. I was just too scared to admit it. Too proud. Too stupid. Celia's eyes softened. You hurt me, Donovan. More than I thought anyone could. I know. And I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that. Donovan nodded. I understand. Celia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, but I see the way Felix looks at you. And I see the way you look at her. And I think, maybe she deserves to have a father. Even if that father made mistakes. Donovan's throat tightened. Thank you, Celia. I promise I won't let her down. You better not, Celia said. Because if you do, I'll make sure you regret it. Donovan smiled. I believe you. They sat in silence, watching Felix chase pigeons. What about us? Donovan asked quietly. Celia glanced at him. What about us? Is there any chance? He trailed off, not sure how to finish. Celia shook her head. I don't know, Donovan. I'm not the same person I was. And neither are you. Maybe one day we can be friends. But anything more than that? I don't think so. It hurt. But Donovan understood. Okay, he said. Friends is enough. Celia smiled faintly. Good. As the sun set, Donovan realized something. He didn't need Celia to love him again. He didn't need to go back to the way things were. He just needed to be a good father. A good man. And that was enough. 6 months later, Donovan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie. But this time, it wasn't for a board meeting or a business presentation. It was for Felix's 3rd birthday party. He arrived at Celia's apartment with a wrapped present, a toy bunny to keep Mopsy company. When Felix saw him, she squealed and ran into his arms. Daddy. Donovan froze. Daddy. She called him Daddy. He looked at Celia, who was standing in the doorway. She smiled. She started saying it last week, Celia said. I didn't correct her. Donovan felt tears prick his eyes. Thank you. Celia nodded. You've earned it. The party was small, just Celia, Felix, Donovan, and a few of Felix's little friends. But it was perfect. As Donovan watched Felix blow out her candles, he realized something. This was what happiness felt like. Not the thrill of an affair. Not the rush of a promotion. Just this. A little girl who called him Daddy. A woman who'd given him a second chance. And a future he was determined not to waste. Do you believe people can truly change after they've hurt someone deeply? Or is forgiveness something we give not because they've earned it, but because we deserve peace? What's your story?